River of Gods by Ian McDonald. India is an atypical setting for sci-fi, and I definitely had that in mind when recommending this book. Another thing that I had in mind is that this is a several character storylines with most lines converging novel, a familiar concept that readers new to the genre can find some relatability to. Also, this is cyberpunky to a degree, and I want to be diverse in the sci-fi subgenres on this list. In River of Gods, there are several different characters, some of who eventually meet, whose behavior and actions influence the main events of the story. Events take place approximately 40 years into our future, and 4 of our main characters are found to be represented in discovered alien artifacts that date back billions of years. There's all kinds of sci-fi and cyberpunk goodies in here, from pocket dimensions, AI, and virtual reality, to interesting new technologies and genetic engineering, well blended into the future Indian landscape and culture. This isn't light, accessible science fiction. River of Gods is deep dive cultural sci-fi with very rich characters and an immersive story. Real quick, if you're here today because you're new to science fiction and you're looking for recommendations, you're in luck. I've got a bunch more novels on this list, and also today my friends are releasing similar videos with recommendations for those new to science fiction, so check out those videos from Library Ladder and Bookpilled. Of course, we need to look at space opera, and the 2 that I've chosen today are Embers of War by Gareth Powell and Reef by David Brin. Fun fact, both of these authors appeared on my top 210 science fiction books video, and you can see their cameos talking about some of my favorite science fiction books on that video. Let's start with Embers of War. I don't want to call it a trend, but since Anne Leckie's Ancillary Justice and her Imperial Rights trilogy, sentient spaceship tropes are getting a bit of a replay recently. Powell plays with themes of ethics, justice, and humanity. Powell enlists multiple character POVs to tell the story of the warship Trouble Dog. Trouble Dog and crew must live with their contribution to the genocide that ended a high-stakes war. This redemption story follows some standard space opera tropes, which I think is good for a new to sci-fi list, and also scores points for well-drawn, diverse characters, some good military science fiction, and of course, sentient spaceships. Reef by David Brin. I need to explain myself a little bit with this selection. This is book 1 of Brin's Uplift Storm trilogy, but it could also be considered maybe book 4 of his brilliant Uplift saga. So why not start there with Sundiver? Because that's not modern enough. It really isn't necessary to start with the Uplift saga, and frankly, if you like Reef, then you've got a ton of great David Brin Uplift content to keep you busy for quite a while. The premise of the Uplift universe is one of my favorite in all of science fiction. Advanced patron aliens are responsible for the evolution, engineering, movement of pre-sapient sentient life to realized sapience and sentience. The mystery of whether or not humanity was uplifted, and if so, by who, is a common thread that runs through this book, as well as the Uplift Saga series. Reef departs from the earlier trilogy in that a number of alien species aren't as thrilled about being uplifted as you might expect. To pique your interest, new to sci-fi readers, Reef gives you multiple well-drawn and truly alien races that are not just good or bad. You got gigantic and rich galactic world building, and of course the concept of uplift, who wants it, who doesn't, who will do what for it, who wants to be patrons, and who can they uplift. I should mention that while my previous Science Fiction for Beginners episode, which featured mostly classic science fiction and books that I thought had the potential to absolutely captivate and breed an obsession for science fiction, the intent with this episode is a little bit different. The books listed today are recommendations of a variety of different kinds of science fiction, offering a broad sense of the different subgenres, writing styles, and moods that modern authors are bringing to the table. Backtracking on that statement a bit, Red Rising by Pierce Brown might just be that read that captivates you and nurtures an obsession for science fiction. If Red Rising does that for you, good news, there's a bunch of books in this series. In Red Rising, main character, 16-year-old, uneducated, brilliant Darrow is pretty content with his lot in life. Despite the dystopian surroundings of an unlivable Mars, he puts his head down and gets to work mining in the depths of Mars to play his part in the terraforming of his world. Not everybody is sold on this lot in life, including some that are close to him. A big part of the story is the revolution that follows that. Darrow is a Red. Reds are the lowest caste in this future society that finds the Golds as the elite in this color-coded cast system. There's so much here for a new reader of sci-fi to get drawn to. The revolution in its direction being unpredictable and full of surprises. There is astonishing dystopian world building, and there are characters that you can't help but connect with because of the personality that Pierce Brown develops for each of them. There's a cadet school and challenges that will evoke the best parts of the Hunger Games, while definitely standing alone as a terrific novel with tremendous scope, twists and turns, and great complexity and drama. The sequels, Golden Sun and Morning Star, perfectly advance the revolution, Darrow's evolution, and even exceed the original in complexity, and delivers these moments where you think that the story will go one place, only to find out that you guessed wrong. This is the type of series where any one of the books could end up being your favorite. The Nemesis Effect by Michael Schotter. This falls into a little bit of everything science fiction. It's a bit dystopian, there's a bit of AI, there's a bit of space opera. This is short fiction, and it's weird fiction in a good way. This is also the only independent self-published fiction on the list, so you might not hear much about this anywhere else but here. The setting is near future, and the Earth has faced a nuclear conflict or some other major worldwide conflict. This future comes with some pretty interesting technology. Each citizen is fitted with ocular implants upon becoming an adult. Any data one might need could be accessed instantaneously through these implants. The powers that be in this world are the executives. There are dozens of executive levels, but the highest levels are denoted by stars. Those with the highest rank, we are talking 3 stars or more unheard of. 2 stars are almost regarded as a myth. They are revered. Even laying eyes on one of these executives would be a story worth telling for the rest of your life. The mood is unsettling and intriguing. There's nothing obviously wrong with the people or the way that they're acting. People are polite, they're quiet, they're maybe perhaps too pleasant. Everything is just a little bit off. The story is easy to follow, but we never shake the feeling of being curious about what's up with these people. This is a page turner, and it's only about 100 pages long. Check it out. Metro 2033 by Dimitri Glukovsky. As the name suggests, this is the future. 2033, of course. There's no shortage of post-apocalyptic dystopian science fiction that I could have chosen for this list. I went with Metro 2033 because it also meets the mark for a lot of other things, potentially appealing for a new science fiction reader. It's a hero's journey. There are alternative societies or pseudo-societies, and great suspense. Because of nuclear war, people live under Moscow in the metro. In addition to the radiation, there are a host of other dangers lurking on the surface. So underground it is. The best takeaway from the reading experience are the developing culture and strange microcosms with distinct beliefs, personality, or spirituality that evolve around the stations. Each metro station has become its own town. While the pace can be inconsistent, the underground societies and the vein of suspense that runs throughout the book more than compensate for it. Excession by Ian M. Banks. Like other novels on this list, this will check off a number of science fiction boxes, one of which I'll lean into is the philosophic sci-fi box. This is part of Banks's Culture series. The books in this amazing series are mostly standalone and can be read in almost any order. Excession is the second book chronologically. It bears repeating that because I call this beginner science fiction, it doesn't mean that these are beginner level reading experiences. This is a great book, period. This will introduce you to the brilliance of Ian M. Banks and tease you with the best of what science fiction lit is capable of. The culture refers to a civilization of 7-ish evolved federated humanoid species organized thousands of years ago with plots heavily influenced by or relying on the setting of the cosmos. Ever present in the culture novels is the challenge that the advanced AI manipulative idealists of the culture face dealing with other civilizations that don't see things the same way or behave as the culture would like. This definitely applies to Excession, and most compelling is the mystery and ambiguity that runs throughout, wars spanning galaxies, and of course, the minds. The minds are the artificial intelligences driving the culture. Excession heavily looks at the minds, their motivations, deceptions, actions, and abilities. This is a mesmerizing space opera, and more than that, it's a great book with very big ideas. Finally, Lagoon by Nnedi Okorafor. On my last list, I included Carl Sagan's Contact for great first contact science fiction, and I maintain that that's the best place to start. Today, though, I'm talking about Lagoon. This is another atypical science fiction setting. Much of Okorafor's fiction is set in Africa. Lagoon is set in Lagos, Nigeria. How first contact is handled is also not typical. 3 unrelated Nigerians, a rapper, a scientist, and a soldier, walking along the coast, have an unusual encounter. Okorafor imagines what this first contact encounter might look like in Nigeria, and the standard, let's see how the population reacts, and let's see what the alien looks like, what it can do, and what does it do. Not standard is the prose which Okorafor has a true talent for, the mysticism, the culture, the folklore woven into the story, and the unique absence of telling this type of story from a Western viewpoint. There is almost no attention paid to how the events unfolding affect the West or are impacted by the West. If Okorafor's brand of African futurism writing vibes with you, next stops would be her novella Remote Control set in Ghana, or her space opera series Binti. Thank you for watching. I'm Michael Everts, and this is Fit to be Read.